deciding on executive privilege yet.
Has told everybody, the world, I am comfortable with everything being released. Now, the president can't change the law. Now the attorney general has to apply that. He wants to do maximum transparency. I'm sure we'll get just about all of it. I hope we get all of it.
Hard to believe, but you got Rudy Giuliani there agreeing with Democrats. President's attorney saying that he wants the entire Mueller report released to Congress. Kind of. Barr continues to work on redactions to the report, and he has promised to release it by the middle of this month. And we may learn more this week as Barr is scheduled to testify before Congress on the Justice Department budget. But of course, I think it's a safe bet to say he'll probably get a question about the report. Whether or not he chooses to answer could be a different question. Now, Democrats already voicing suspicions that Barr may redact things beyond what is required, and also in the process hiding things simply because they might make the president look bad. They're also trying to plan their response if the report comes in after Wednesday as Congress starts recess just this Thursday. In addition, you've got Congressman Jerry Nadler. He's head of the House Judiciary Committee, the New York Democrat, now calling for Mueller to testify before his panel on May 2nd. And the ranking Republican on Judiciary, Congressman Doug Collins, he wants Nadler to also get Mueller to testify under oath. So, got a lot of moving deck chairs here to help us sort out who's sitting where. Let's bring in former federal prosecutor Gene Rossi. He knows a lot of these players. He worked under William Barr in the Justice Department, and he's kind enough to give us a few minutes. Now, let me go back a little bit, Gene. The Times and the Washington Post had a few members, plural, of the Mueller prosecutorial team who basically said, hey, that summary that Barr put out, that's not reflective of our work product here. He's trying to downplay the significance of some of the things that we found. He's trying to make it look better for the president, in effect, than a report really concluded it was. Before we get to the substance of it, give me the optics. You know a lot of these players. It's a question, but I don't think somebody's going to go off the reservation without Mueller granting them a green light to go speak to the Times or the Washington Post about, you know, their feelings as to what Barr was doing. And I think it was a direct message at that point here to Barr to say, be very careful here in terms of what you choose to redact and how you choose to present. Do I have it mostly right?
You know, one of my favorite sports is basketball, and what you just described is a hand check in basketball. Given that UVA is going to win tonight, I think Mueller and his staff did a hand check like in basketball, telling the Barr folks, if you sanitize that report, if you try to put lipstick on a pig, we are going to come out guns blazing. And I was living vicariously through this newspaper article or articles because I know exactly what happened. They wrote a report that had information against obstruction, in favor of obstruction, and I got to tell you, there were probably some events in favor of obstruction that would be very embarrassing to the President of the United States, and for some prosecutors, aggressive, it would be grounds for charging him. And here's the other thing that people aren't talking about, Richard, in the newspaper or on anybody's show. Barr said there was no evidence of anyone joining a conspiracy. Joining a conspiracy is an evidentiary hurdle that's pretty tough for a prosecutor. But there's something a little different called aiding and abetting a conspiracy. And all the events that we've been talking about for the last year, the Tower meeting, the cigar meeting when Manafort and Gates gave poll numbers to Konstantin Kilimnik, the changing of the RNC policy at the convention, President Trump saying, Russia, are you listening? Those are events of aiding and abetting a known conspiracy. That may be also in the report. So going back to your threshold question, it's a hand check in basketball.
So my question is, you know Barr, what would he be thinking? I mean, you got 19 knife fighters here in terms of the team that Mueller put together, these former prosecutors here. I mean, some of the best in their respective fields. And you got Mueller. Barr didn't really think that he's going to write a summary report and this whole thing is going to go away, and he puts big black lines through the stuff, and he'll claim that, you know, it's unfairly tarring third parties. He had to know that, you know, they weren't going to go away and that Mueller eventually was probably going to testify. Why would he do what he did then?
Well, I respectfully disagree, Richard. I know Bill Barr. I'm not going to be invited over to his house on Thanksgiving Day, but I trained his daughter and I worked under him in 91 and 92. Here's the problem with Bill Barr. He's brilliant, but he's not a political genius. And he thought this summary, which was really 2 pages, the rest was just fluff. He thought that that summary would placate and allay anybody's fears. And he's now facing a headwind. You got to remember, December 24th, 1992, Bill Barr was part of a process that pardoned Caspar Weinberger and 5 other people right before Caspar Weinberger was going to trial in Iran-Contra. That politically was terrible, but it didn't matter because H.W. Bush was leaving office. So he has this tendency, Barr does, to try and protect the executive, but he doesn't have the political wherewithal to handle Congress. That's my prediction.
I want to play a clip for our audience. This Adam Schiff, he obviously the ranking member on intelligence in the House, talking about the likelihood of hearing Mr. Mueller himself testify.
I think it's inevitable Bob Mueller's going to have to testify before Congress. I would think that he will probably be needed before more than one committee. In the Intel Committee, we have a statutory requirement that the intelligence community, FBI, brief us on any significant counterintelligence or intelligence activity, and it's hard to imagine something that rises more to that level than this investigation.
So it's interesting, Gene, you got Rudy Giuliani, you got the ranking Republican on House Judiciary saying, yeah, Mueller should testify. Absolutely, he should go out there. But clearly they want him to testify before the report, in any form, seemingly, has even been released. And I would imagine the Democrats are going to say, cool your jets here. We first want to read at least the work product before we talk to the star witness. Tell me how you think this is going to play out in terms of who's going to get the report, in what form, and when, in what order are we going to hear from Mueller or anybody else from his team?
All right, I want to start with Mueller. I don't think Mueller's going to testify probably until July. The first step in this process is Barr and Rosenstein are going to file a redacted report, and I'll guarantee you it's going to be sugar-coated, and they're going to redact more than they have to. Congress is going to object like you know what, and what's going to happen is this. We're going to end up in the courts, or it's going to be a battle royale, but at the end of the day, the intelligence committees in the House and Senate, and the House Judiciary Committee in the House, of course, they're going to get the unfiltered, unredacted report confidentially. They can't disclose it to the public. And Mueller's going to testify before the Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, and eventually the Judiciary Committee. And Mueller's going to talk about the jump ball, basketball analogy, the obstruction where they didn't make a decision. And this is important, Richard. Why did Mueller not decide that issue? Was it because he couldn't come to a conclusion? Or did he want Barr to do it? Or did he want the Congress to decide whether this is obstruction worthy of an article of impeachment? We need to hear from Mueller on that. And also, he can shed light on the collusion, the joining a conspiracy versus aiding and abetting. Why didn't they find joining a conspiracy? He needs to explain that. For the American people, this is too serious.
So, really quickly, I got like 30 seconds, Gene. If, let's say, Mueller, Barr puts a black line through references of Russia for an unindicted player, in this case the president, because he said it would be embarrassing. But yet the Gang of Eight, as you reference it, they get to see it. Do they get to ask the question from the unredacted report that they theoretically would see to Mueller under oath even though for the general population that had been redacted? If they get to read it, do they get to ask about it?
Yes, I think in the closed hearings, and Richard, there is absolutely no basis for in the closed hearing to have a redacted report, number one, and there's no basis for not allowing Mueller to talk in closed proceedings about who an unindicted conspirator is. We need to know that. The American people need to know that. We're talking about conspiring or aiding and abetting the Russians in an effort to destroy our democracy. That's a big deal. It's not a bunch of yahoos putting duct tape on a door at the Watergate building.
It's amazing what we have to still debate in this country as to what we, the people, should we be able to know about. But Gene, it never ceases to amaze. Gene Rossi, great job as always. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And good luck to Virginia for him. We're going to be talking about hoops here in the next segment. Teams in tonight's NCAA championship, they're raking in tens of millions of bucks. I'm talking about the schools, not the players. They're not getting a cent. The question is it fair? Well, we'll debate that after this break.